for joining me so much today, Miss Charu Suri, the now Grammy nominated pianist. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Tell me about your projects that have been nominated for Grammys, 2 Grammys.
Yeah, so I had my own album called Cheyenne, which is a Sanskrit word for deep sleep or rest, nominated in the contemporary instrumental album jazz category. And so that's the first time for me as a nominee of my own work. And I'm also producer on the global music album Sounds of Kumba that got nominated. So we have the possibilities of actually bringing home 2 awards come February. And I'm also on a children's album called Her Story by Flor Bromley that got nominated. I'm playing the piano and I composed a track for that.
That's so cool. Congratulations.
Big day.
Yeah, you're going to have fun on Grammy night for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, you're known as a musical prodigy. You started playing piano at a very young age. You won an international piano competition when you were only 15 years old. But when you hear the word prodigy, what does that mean to you?
Someone who's just very advanced in skill level, expectations. So someone who just is able to just do something really extraordinary versus the normal expected timeline.
Well, thinking back to those earliest experiences that you have playing piano, what do you remember about the practice that it took to build the career that you have today?
Are countless. I have a music academy where I teach piano to kids too, and many of my students look at me and say, wow, God, I could play that, wish I could play that effortlessly. And I'm like, you don't know how many thousands of hours that have gone behind this one phrase that looks so effortless, right? Like it's like seeing an ice skater at the Olympics and we're like, oh my God, so effortless. It was when I was a child and when I was about 7, 8 years old, I would actually, without any prompting, practice 6 to 7 hours a day. And that actually increased when I became a little older into 9, 10. I would go as much as 7 to 8 hours a day if I could. Give and take if it's a weekend or not. And this was completely unsolicited. My parents actually were telling me not to practice. I was just so addicted to getting like things perfectly. And I loved the piano repertoire. I loved playing everything from complex concerti to pieces. And I was always practicing and I was always looking at the videos of great pianists, trying to imitate them, trying to get their style, their perfections and their moves. It was like an obsession. So that was my childhood, most of my childhood.
That's really great. It makes me think of this image that I keep seeing recently, and it's like, don't call me lucky. You don't know how much hard work it's taken.
It is really and truly true. And so when I started composing and blending this music of, East and West, everyone's like, it blends so seamlessly. I'm like, yeah, I've put in thousands of hours of studies in both of these genres to make it look like it is nothing. And that's really true.
Well, outside of playing piano, what do you love to do? What are some of your other hobbies?
So as I mentioned, I have run my own music academy. So I teach. I have a lot of students and I have very young students, as young as 5 and as old as 50. And I groom them from the very basics. And I was passionate about teaching because my piano teacher in India was so passionate about teaching everything the right way. How to read, how to write, how to transpose, how to sight sing, how to like get all of those amazingly beautiful details that maybe they had when it was like the Baroque or the Renaissance or the classical era, but now a lot of people it's lost because that's a dying art form. So I was sad about that. So I started my own music academy and now my students are playing in major concert halls like Carnegie Hall. One of them just finished a tour at Harvard, San Francisco Opera House, and Carnegie Hall in a week. So I have had great joy in teaching. And I'm also the mom of a beautiful 13-year-old daughter. And I love my, family, my husband and my daughter. So we have a lot of fun together. We go on outings, etc. And in my spare time, I'm a reporter. I'm a travel journalist. I freelance. Yeah, those are my passions outside music.
Wow. So between practicing and travel reporting, you have all the time in the world, I guess.
Exactly, all the time.
Well, you said something about Carnegie Hall, and one of the things that really just is incredible about you that I am just so proud of you for is that you are the first Indian-born jazz artist to have played at Carnegie Hall.
And I've been invited back a sixth time next year, so it's been crazy. Yeah, it's been amazing.
When you first played that space, what did that feel like to be in that venue and to carry the weight of really blazing a trail and making history?
Oh God, I can't even tell you. So as a child, like I've had very strong desires, and I do believe that that strong desire is a sign from the universe that you're meant to go and get that in some way, shape, or form. So one of my strongest desires was to play at Carnegie Hall. When as young as when I was like 7 years old, I was fantasizing about that hall, and because the acoustics are perfect, we don't use mics. We don't use any amplification, and it's completely organic and acoustic. So it's very sanctifying and it's very humbling because that is kind of like a perfect sonic space. If you make a mistake, people will hear it. If you sneeze, people will hear it. So talk about a shrine for music, right? Every pitch, every phrase, every emotion is not just communicated, it's amplified times 100. So it's a very beautiful space that I have come to love and return to again and again and again for that reason.
That's nice. I would love to hear you play there, and I bet the acoustics are just mind-blowing. I was talking about acoustics at the Opera House here in Denver, and just talking about how impressive it is to go in there and just be surrounded by sound.
Exactly. Surrounded by sound, surrounded by also it have it and at the same time have a warm and intimate connection with the audience and community because we play at Carnegie, we play at Wild Recital Hall, which is the smallest. And I like my audiences about intimate around that 200, 300 level. It's just perfect for
Yeah.
jazz.
And your jazz is really cool. It is this traditional jazz melded with this Indian raga. It's this really kind of eclectic vibe, but it's also very soft at times and just to me, it's a very relaxing sound. I'd love to know who are some of your biggest musical inspirations?
Yeah, it's a great question because ragas and jazz is not a common thing. And in fact, after I received my nomination, all of my the press in India has said, "Oh my God, Charu's jazzified the Indian ragas," and I that's so amazing because that's really what I wanted to do for a long time. And so my idols, because there aren't that many precedents for what I'm doing, because there really aren't any raga jazz pianists doing what I'm doing. My idols have been jazz greats in the ensemble setting, like Bill Evans. I love his tone. Keith Jarrett, who experimented with modality and, took it to a different level. David Brubeck, who brought such playfulness and energy to his music. I grew up with those sounds, but I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to do it my way. And so I took from them and they're my inspirations, but I kind of tried to make it my own.
Your Way is one of my favorites, and one of my favorite, yeah, one of my favorite projects of yours is Rags to
It was
Ragas, and
so fun to write that album. Honestly, I still get the most compliments from that album. Thank you for saying.
yeah, of course. I mean, I lived near New Orleans for a little while, and so it's just so iconic that sound, and even your cover art is it makes me homesick for New Orleans. And I'm wondering, were you in New Orleans when you wrote that and when you put that together?
I I just got off the phone this morning with my dear friend Joe Lasty, the drummer from Preservation Hall. We are talking about Grammy nominations, and I started doing jazz because of my visits to New Orleans. My jazz journey is not very old. It's just 5 years old. That's when I started doing jazz and started bringing out all my albums. And it all started with a concert that I went to at Preservation Hall. I went there and my life changed. I don't know, I can't explain it. I just knew. I I came back from that concert and went back to my hotel room. I said, this is it. I'm meant to be a jazz composer. And then another voice in my head was like, Charu, you're a classical pianist. You don't know anything about jazz. I'm like, shoot, I'm meant to be a jazz composer. Because I love what Preservation Hall was doing, bringing people together. I love the improvisational aspect of it. And then for some reason, my brain just went to the ragas and started saying, this is what you need to improvise. I can't even make sense of that moment because I knew instantly that's what I wanted to do. And I went back to my hotel room after that concert, and I had a tune in my head, which would later on be one of my first pieces in my first jazz album called Lollipops for Breakfast. And I said, God, I need to write it down. And lo and behold, at that hotel in New Orleans, instead of note paper that they normally have on the nightstand at a hotel, they had music manuscript paper. But
Wow.
it's New Orleans. It was just like waiting there for me to write. And it was just like this amazing moment where everything dovetailed. So I started writing my first tunes and I brought out my first jazz album. I didn't even know anything about how to assemble a jazz band together. So I was just like, what do I do? And they're like, Charu, it's a band. Like, put it together. I'm like, okay. So I interviewed musicians and I auditioned them and I started playing with them, and everyone's like, you play like a classical pianist. And I'm like, do you know what jazz is? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get that groove on. So it was like a study. Like a lot of my bandmates did school me about swing and comping, and my bass player was like, keep off my notes, babe. And I'm like, yeah, right, I'll try to do that. Because I was always reaching out for the bass line. So there's a lot of learning and a lot of studying that genre, because when you come from a classical mindset to do that, it's very different. But yes, to answer your question in short, New Orleans has been the reason why I'm in jazz. Always.
So
And
cool.
then I started working with the Preservation Hall folks and learning their repertoire. And then Joe Lasty came on my last 2 albums. And yeah, and I'll definitely be working with them more again. So New Orleans has been the reason why I'm in this space.
It's one of those places, isn't it? Like, it's so inspiring.
Oh my God, beyond inspiring. I just go through the French Quarter and listen to all of the bands and their rhythm, their hum, it's in every single nook and cranny, cobblestone. It's just so beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a bit of your story with me, and thank you for sharing the excitement of your Grammy nominations. I really look forward to seeing you here in Denver on November 14th at Dazzle Jazz.
I love playing there. Great
Yes.
people. Can't wait. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. We can't wait to welcome you back, and good luck with your nomination, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruby. It's an honor to be on your podcast. Thanks for having me.